our first speaker, Louise Reynolds. Louise is a registered dietitian, communications manager with the Irish Nutrition and Dietetic Institute, which is the professional organisation for clinical nutritionists and dietitians in Ireland. And Louise will be presenting today on eating for health, steps to reduce your cancer risk. Over to you, Louise.
Thank you very much, Trina. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm just going to share my screen now because I have some slides to share with you. And I think, can you all see those okay? Great. So as Trina said to you there, I am a registered dietitian, and I'm delighted to be here. And I've worked before with the Irish Cancer Prevention Network because obviously, you know, as a dietitian and with an interest and expertise in the whole area of what we eat, there is definitely a focus on eating well to help to reduce our risk of cancer. And of course, it would be great if we could, sorry, can I move on my slides there? Is that working okay there?
You just need to put it into presenter mode for us, and then you should be able to move it along.
I thought I had it in, I can see it on my screen in presenter mode, but sorry, is that not? Okay.
We can see your full screen at the moment, Louise.
Okay, I'm going to stop that share, and I'll just, well, I'm sorry about that. I had it in presenter, I have it in presenter mode there, ready to go. So let me just, apologies now for that. I'm going to just try this one more time. I'll share it one more time. This is when technology is great until it's not great. So now, if I go into presenter mode now, is that working?
That's wonderful, Louise. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry about that. So again, this is the first slide I wanted to share with you all. Can we avoid cancer? And as you heard Trina say already, unfortunately, no, we cannot rule out all risk. And in fact, you see there, I have the figure of 40% of cancers can be prevented through lifestyle. I think that Trina said between 30 and 50%. So I kind of went for somewhere in the middle. So again, we know that we can make changes, and that's why we're all here to talk to you today and help you to maybe pick out a few small areas that you might like to say, okay, maybe I could make that change, and we can all help to reduce our risk. And of course, the changes we make will have other benefits as well in terms of helping us to live a healthier life and perhaps to reduce our risk of other diseases as well, not just cancers. So we're talking about making small changes because we know that it's difficult to make lifestyle changes. You know, we are creatures of habit, and it is hard to make changes. So really we want to kind of say, okay, there are a couple of things that you could focus on that you could change to help to reduce your risk and that of your family in terms of cancer prevention. So what I did was I went to have a look at the World Cancer Research Fund. They came out in 2018 with a number of scientifically based cancer prevention recommendations. And really, this is, you know, again, we are very, very keen that you always go to trusted sources of information. Because if you go online or you go to Instagram or you go to, you know, social media, it can be a little bit of a minefield at times when it comes to cancer, and particularly in terms of nutrition. So we would definitely advise that you base all of your kind of actions and your advice on a trusted source of information, whether that's your GP or talking to practice nurses or registered dietitians when it comes to nutrition. So all of these recommendations which the World Cancer Research Fund made included physical activity, lifestyle, and diet. So I'm just kind of focusing on the ones quickly that in terms of diet, what can we do? And I'm sure you're not surprised to see the first one I've pulled out here is eat more vegetables and fruit. You know, I think anybody who's heard me speak before will know that, you know, if I was funded by the vegetable and fruit growers, you know, I would be making a lot of money, because certainly it's a really, really important piece of advice. And even if you after today say, okay, I'm going to have an extra piece of fruit with my breakfast and I'm going to have an extra portion of vegetables with my dinner, any small increase in fruit and vegetable intake is going to give you benefits in terms of health and also in terms of reducing your risk of cancer. And we know that the benefits to be found are based on the fiber that's found in the fruit and vegetables, also in a whole range of phytonutrients and antioxidants. You may have heard of these terms before. Vitamin C, as you know, is found in fruit and vegetables. And these antioxidants can, at the cell level in our body, can help to prepare our body or help us to reduce our risk of developing certain types of cancers. Of course, the more you eat, the lower the risk. So, the recommendations are 5 to 7 portions a day. We know in Ireland, we're not really near that. On a population basis, we're in and around 2 to 3 servings a day is what people on average are eating. So fill your plate with colour, eat a rainbow. When you look down at your plate at dinner time, you should see lots of colour there. And that's a really good way to start to improve your diet and by eating more fruit and vegetables. The other thing you can include is more whole grains. And again, these are positive changes. People often think that registered dietitians are going to tell you, don't eat this, don't eat that. I have a little bit of that coming up, but at the moment it's all about positive messages, because really by making positive changes to our diet, we can have really strong impacts on our health. We know in Ireland that about 4 out of 5 of us are not getting enough fibre, and high fibre foods, particularly whole grains, are really linked to lower rates of bowel cancer. So if you increase your intake of whole grain foods, you can reduce your risk of bowel cancer. And in fact, some research studies have suggested that by eating 10 grams more of dietary fibre per day, you reduce your risk of bowel cancer by 10%. So again, we know that there are other factors that cause cancer, but we are talking about this kind of, in and around 30 to 50% of cancers that can be prevented. Eat more fibre, and that's going to be really good for your gut health and can help to reduce your risk of certain cancers. Things like peas, beans, and lentils are also great foods to include. And again, this would be something that if you've any vegetarians or vegans who are watching here today, you probably have lots of those in your cupboard, and that's something we could all try and do. Increase our intake of legumes as well. They're high in protein and really high in fibre. So again, at meal times, have a look and see how you can make those small changes. If you're a porridge eater, fantastic, keep it going. Maybe top it with some fruit, and then you're getting more fruit and whole grains in the one meal. The next dietary recommendation that the World Cancer Research Fund dealt with was the area of meat, and there's been lots of interest and some misinformation around this. And in fact, it's important to note that they didn't say cut out red meat. What they did say was limit the red meat intake, and they suggest about 3 times per week. It's a great source of protein, iron, zinc, and vitamin B12. But again, the processed meats are a little bit different. So what we would suggest is going for quality over quantity. So that would mean go for a good piece of lean red meat less often. So, a few times a week, mix up your proteins, have more fish, which is fantastic as well for heart health, particularly oily fish, and lean chicken, and also go for things like tofu or other sources, vegetarian sources as well of protein in there during the week for your main meals. So again, this processed meats, things like sausages, salami, chorizo, ham, we are kind of big eaters of these foods here in the average Irish diet. Again, any reduction in those can be beneficial particularly in terms of bowel cancer risk. So if you do have a look at your weekly intake and you're thinking, okay, where can I make some small changes? Maybe by eating less processed meats, because we do know that they can have a higher risk of leading to the cause of certain types of cancers, particularly in relation to bowel cancer. Another area then which they focused on was fast food. And again, no prizes for guessing that this one would be in here. We know that these are foods we enjoy. However, they are high in fat and they're very low in nutrition. So we tend to say that they're not very nutrient dense foods. So there isn't really much in there in terms of the fiber I've already been talking about, or in terms of vitamins and minerals. Eat these foods occasionally. Again, by reducing the amounts of these foods, this can help to control your overall energy or calorie intake. And that can help you to maintain your best weight. And we also know that being overweight can also increase your risk of developing certain types of cancers. So we're suggesting that you have, a look at weight and fruit and vegetable intake, fiber, processed meats. All of these things can make small changes and can make great differences in terms of your cancer risk. So keeping an eye on these foods, enjoy them occasionally with family and friends. Again, fizzy drinks would also be in here. The sugary drinks are something that we also need to keep an eye on. Then, of course, alcohol, not strictly a food, but certainly something that we need to keep an eye on. And the alcohol has been classed as a group 1 carcinogen. So we know that alcohol does cause certain types of cancers, particularly those in relation to the digestive tract. So for cancer prevention, it's better not to drink alcohol at all. However, small amounts of alcohol we know that people can enjoy socially. And I suppose in Ireland, we do know that alcohol can play a large role in the kind of our social life and enjoying with family and friends. But it's important to be aware that the more you drink, the higher your risk of cancer. So there are 900 alcohol-related cancers diagnosed in Ireland every year. And the recommendations per week, just to give you a guideline, are 11 servings for men and 17 for women. I said that the wrong way around. It's 17 for men and 11 for women in terms of your average, or in terms of a maximum intake. That's not a target. It's not something you should be aiming for, but it is a guideline that you should be drinking less than that. And that is to reduce your risk of developing problems, I suppose, health problems from alcohol, because of course cancer is not the only problem that we can put ourselves at risk of if we are drinking too much alcohol. So it's certainly something to keep an eye on. And of course, that's also going to help maintain weight if you reduce your alcohol intake, if it's something that you want to have a look at. Then, of course, in terms of other myths and misconceptions, we could really, talk a long time about this, and we do advise you to have a little bit of a read around this later on if you are interested, because there are lots of myths around there in terms of nutrition. Sugar feeds cancer is something that comes up a lot, and the scientific evidence is really not there. It's an oversimplification to say that sugar feeds cancer. So in fact, sugar in the diet, we do say in terms of added sugars, we should be getting less than 7 teaspoons a day. And the added sugars would be anything you're adding, whether it's table sugar or also the syrups and kind of honey, and all of those are classified as added sugars. So just keep an eye on the amounts. We don't need to avoid them altogether. Sugar that occurs naturally in milk and in fruit is not counted, because that comes in a package which is not added sugar, so it isn't counted in the same way. So do dietary supplements prevent cancer? Unfortunately not. There's no supplement that you can take that's going to outrun or outdo a bad diet. So certainly we all need to take vitamin D and folic acid for women who may become pregnant are the two supplements that are really important. But in terms of taking a supplement specifically to prevent cancer, unfortunately the science is not there. In terms of all fruit and vegetables you buy must be organic, again, that's something that we're often asked, and no, that's not true. The nutritional value that you can get from fruit and vegetables, it doesn't matter whether they are frozen or fresh or organic or non-organic. So obviously that can be a bit of a good news for your wallet, because sometimes you may be paying more for organic, but it's not, the science is not there to suggest that you must only eat organic fruit and vegetables. Anything will help to increase your fruit and vegetable intake, and you will get the benefits from that for your health. Dairy products cause cancer. That's something, again, that we're often asked. And I would just highlight that there is no scientific evidence that dairy products cause cancer. And in fact, there's some evidence that the calcium in dairy products can actually be protective against certain types of cancers. So I think it will be really important that if you are someone who enjoys dairy products, we're talking about milk and cheese and yogurt here, they're great sources of calcium and very protective for bones. There was a book a number of years ago that kind of put a lot of doubt around dairy products. And again, I would just say go to trusted sources. A lot of anecdotal evidence can be published in books with no scientific basis. So do go to trusted sources, such as any of the organizations that are working and presenting to you here today. So finally, I just wanted to mention one book that the Breakthrough Cancer have published, and it was produced by Dr. Aoife Ryan and her team down in UCC. And there's a lot of information in there. All of the money goes to the cancer research, and also they have a lot of free resources as well. They are fabulous recipe books, which you can get from Breakthrough Cancer, which have all been written by registered dietitians. And again, check out indi.ie, and there's a lot of information there. So it was a whistle-stop tour there, Trina. I'll stop sharing my screen now. Sorry about that blip at the start. But thank you so much, everyone, for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the webinar.